Hi, my name is Nicholas Buffett from the Junior and Senior School, and I'm back with another video. This is a top requested video, and it's all about my increasingly popular Hack My Password exercise using Microsoft OneNote Notebook. The reason I developed this exercise was essentially to resolve a lot of the issues that we as educators face when we're teaching our students and trying to encourage students to take control of their own learning. I know, sounds impossible, but watch this video and you see that it's not really. So let's get started. First of all, what is Hack My Password? Hack My Password is essentially, for the educator, really easy. I know you've heard this 1,000 times. Whenever someone asks you to try something new, they start off with it's really easy. But trust me, it is really easy. And a lot of the educators have come back to me saying, I really enjoyed creating it. So, you know, give it a go. You never know. Okay, what do the students get out of it? Well, the students will learn things that we don't expect to be possible. For example, they'll willingly take control of their own learning. They learn to read instructions carefully. I mean, how many times do we keep telling the students, read the question carefully? They will recheck their answers voluntarily. I know you don't believe me, just give me a minute. Work at their own pace. They will really learn. What do I mean by really learn? Instead of them just creating an assignment, submitting it without even rechecking it or just reading it through again, this time they will actually go over their work again and again and again. They will be totally engaged. They work at their own pace without being stigmatized. I think this is really important. This is one of the reasons why I created the Hack My Password exercise, because the last thing that we should be doing as educators is actually pointing fingers and say, you guys are going to do this exercise and you guys are going to do a different exercise. And it also stretches students independent of what their abilities are. Now you say that's impossible. It's not. Hack My Password actually makes the impossible possible. Let's have a look how. Before we get into that though, a couple of things that you need to know. The students that are going to be using the Hack My Password exercise, they can use absolutely any version of OneNote they like. It can either be Microsoft Teams Class Notebook. It could be the online version of Notebook. It could be the 2016, the Windows 10, Mac. It could be absolutely any version. There are no restrictions there. And this is the other beautiful thing about it. However, you guys, the educators, are going to be creating this. You can't use the online version or the version through Microsoft Teams, and the simple reason is because you don't have the ability to create passwords on sections using the online version, and you don't have the ability to create section groups. Not that it is an absolute must to create section groups, it just makes everything more tidy, and you can actually have your Hack My Passwords in separate sections. It's easier for the students as well. Now you hear password protection, you think, this is another breakout room. No, not at all. This has got nothing to do with breakout rooms. The concept is a little bit similar, but it's very, very different. So let's look at the structure that's required to create a Hack My Password. First of all, we create a section group in OneNote Class Notebook or in OneNote, but essentially if you're doing this for class, you're going to be doing this in your OneNote Class Notebook, something which is very difficult to do if you're going to create a breakout room. The first page is a good introduction and a story behind the theme, excites the students and placing them in the right mindset. Now this is important. When you just throw a couple of questions at them and tell them, right, do this and submit it, it gets boring. Give them a little story behind it, relate everything, and they will really, really be engaged. I mean, why do we watch movies? We know it's not true, but we like living in that fantasy world. Add your questions on separate pages, create a section and lock it. And then last of all, add instructions in the locked sections and in the first page so that students do not share the answers. Now there's a little trick to this we're going to see a little bit later on, because the important thing is once a student has solved this Hack My Password, we don't want them sharing the answers and taking the fun away from everybody else. And a very, very important thing here to make this really possible and really encourage the learning, all these wonderful things that we say that are impossible to do with students, one of the questions must be an out-of-the-box thinking question, a misdirection if you like. Has to be a little bit tricky, and I'm going to show you a couple of those. And this is where you find educators, giggling a little bit when they're creating their Hack My Password, because they're being a little bit sneaky about it. So how do the mechanics work? essentially students are faced with a series of questions. Let's say here we got 5 questions, just like a normal breakout room. But the difference with the breakout room is they have to answer question 1, and the answer of question 1 is the password to question 2, and so on and so forth. Now this caused a lot of issues for me, because I will find a lot of students being discouraged or giving up because they can't go past a particular question. If they're stuck on question 2, then that's it, they can't progress anymore. Whereas with Hack My Password, students can answer the questions in any order they like, and they can go and see all the questions. Okay, so if they don't know how to answer question 1, they say, okay, I'm going to go to question 2, 3, 4, 5, and whichever one I can do, and I'll come back to number 1. Now, because we're going to add a few easy questions in there, it keeps them motivated, saying, I've only got 2 questions to go, I'm going to keep at this. Okay, so every time they answer a question, it gives them a small piece of the key. In this case, the small piece of the password. So essentially, they're creating a long password. And they keep doing this. Now, if they don't read the questions very, very carefully, or the instructions, then they might get the right answer. But if they don't get the right pieces, or the right letters, or right numbers, which we will see in a minute, then, and one of these keys don't fit, and they don't read the instructions carefully, it's not going to unlock. Now, they don't know which question or which piece of that password is not working. So now they have to go back and review all of the questions again. They have to go back and do some more research and make sure they've actually done, they've read the instructions and they've got the right answer. And this is where all the learning happens. Okay, this is the important part. They're going to keep going back to these questions and make sure, no, but this one's 100% right, and this one, oh, maybe it's this one, let me go and check again. And this is where the learning happens. And once they think they've found the answer to, or found which question is the problem, they can keep trying again and again. And if they put all the pieces in the right place, then of course, boom, it unlocks. Now, when it actually unlocks, it doesn't mean they've won. They're going to see a page and say, you may be the winner. They will never know who the actual winner is until you tell them. And this keeps everybody focused, because everybody still believes they have a chance. Okay, let me show you some examples. So first of all, I'm going to bring you here this OneNote here. Okay, in this OneNote, I've got some samples of the Hack My Passwords I've created in the past and given to my students in different ways that I've generated them. So you can actually see some working examples. This is one, for example. Now you're going to see none of these are related to ICT, which is the subject that I teach. I normally create these for teachers to actually help students to revise or review work that they've covered, or simply as a fun exercise, a fun game, but with education involved as well. So this one was all about Cyprus. They had to learn about Cyprus, the country that they live in and they study in. And you can see here we've got a section group. It's called Cyprus Bafidi Challenge. And in this section group, I've got 2 sections. Now this first section has got the instructions, what they have to do, has a little story behind it as well. Okay. And then this one I actually challenge them and say, you're going to hack my password. And they all got crazy about it. And you get some simple questions, some little bit more difficult questions, so on and so forth. And they simply solve these questions. And they have to read the questions very, very carefully. Okay, let's have a look at another one. Now, in this particular one, this was one of the first ones, the password they would use to unlock a Word document. So I actually locked a Word document with the password. I password protected it. And they would keep trying their password to unlock the Word document. And that Word document would have the instructions that they would have to follow if they actually solved all the problems. This one is one more recent one which I've created. This one's probably the most recent one. You can see here again, we've got a section group, and now their topic that they were studying was space. And so I created this one. It's called Houston, We Have a Problem. We've got the section group, that's the title of it. Inside we've got a section called Houston, We Have a Problem. That's going to be the intro. And we've got the quest, and we've got the different questions. Okay, have a look at it. Now, this was given to Year 5 students. Year 5 students on their own had to go and study and learn about things like global positioning systems and how to identify the position of any star in the sky, how each star has got a unique number or series of numbers to identify its position in the sky. And they learned about things like vernal equinox, right ascension, declination, and you know, trying to teach this to year 5, so they'll be falling off, but they were doing this on their own. Okay, so absolutely amazing. So here's the quest. This is what I say, you have to start with a really good, you know, introduction. And if we have a look at this, it's basically about spaceship has been lost in space. It's got 4 astronauts or 3 astronauts and a silverback gorilla. Actually sounds a bit silly, doesn't it? But that's the whole point. It has to be a little bit fun as well. And it goes through the introduction of what you want them to do. And you can actually pause this and have a read through if you like. Okay, and I've actually got a picture down here. So I'm going to go through this one here for you as an example. So if we look at question 2, just to see how sneaky you can get, it actually says that, you know, I actually introduced this in class one day, that they were going to be doing a Hack My Password just to, you know, hype them up a bit. And it says here the explanation of the quest, which is the first paragraph in the page called quest, so that's up here. There's an error. This error is created by 2 letters. By removing these 2 letters, the explanation of the quest will be correct. So what they did, they had to study this paragraph and they had to read it carefully. So here we go. They're reading things carefully. Now, just to see where the problem was, students straight away, they will go and see who the astronauts were and, you know, learn about them and this, that, the other. And then what they had to figure out was there is no such thing as a female silverback gorilla. In fact, silverback gorillas are only male. So the 2 letters which are wrong here are F and E. And that's the first part of your key. If you see here in this section, now you wouldn't give them this section, of course. I keep this for me because I will forget the answers at some point. And when I actually applied, I only put these 2 questions, these 2 sections. So you can see here, key number 2 is the small letters F and E. And if we look in the quest, in key number 2, it says these two letters in small letters is the second key. Okay, now you're going to say, well, what does, you know, a silverback gorilla have anything to do with space? It doesn't. But how much have they learnt about space before they actually figured it out? This is where it all ties in. Okay, it's more about making things fun, but the key element here is educating the students. Let's have a look at some other questions as well. So you've got this one here, which was, you know, everything about learning. This one here, again, a very, very simple question. It says key 3 is what's in the center of the big red spot. Let's see how observant you are. And he started off by saying, you know, to be an astronomer, you had to be really observant and you had to have a keen eye and blah, blah, blah. And it's very important because what they would do, they will be looking at this big red spot and zooming in, trying to see what's in the center of this big red spot. They couldn't see anything. And a little bit of search would actually reveal that there's a big red spot on Jupiter. So then they went and studied everything about the big red spot on Jupiter. Now, remember in my presentation, I said one of the questions has to be like an out-of-the-box question. Well, here it is. They learned so much about Jupiter and the big red spot, and it had absolutely nothing to do with it. In fact, if you looked here in the quest, you would see there is a picture here with the different planets. Here's Jupiter, here's the big red spot, and in the center, you can see is the number 5. Wow, you're going to say, that is sneaky. I had a grin from ear to ear when I thought of this question. Okay, but they learned so much about this big red spot, what it's composed of, the different chemicals, and is it getting smaller and bigger over the years. It was absolutely amazing. Okay, so this is essentially it. They need to read things very, very carefully because the keys, each key, for example, here they had to connect the dots, find the star sign which it represents, which is Sagittarius, and you can see here that this piece of the key is key 4 are the letters 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the answer. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 of Sagittarius. If we look at the answer here, okay, it's Sagittarius. So it's like guitar here. That's that part of the question. Can you see that? Okay, so this is where they had to read things carefully. Now, when they tried to open this and they put their whole password, then it wouldn't work. They don't know which part doesn't work. So they had to go back and review all these questions again. Now, of course, we've got some really easy questions in here. We don't want to really cause them a lot of issues. There's usually one question, that out of the box thinking one, that's going to actually make them review the questions again and again and again. Now, the answer on this one, I actually liked what I did here. So I'm going to share this with you as well. So once they actually unlock this, so let's say they've got everything correct and they put the password, Voila, it opens and it says you may be the winner. Yes, you've hacked my password, but you haven't won yet. Why? Because the password, I actually created a Microsoft form, and that form has got some questions, and I created a link. I shared the link and I made a shortened version of the link using bit.ly, and if you see here, the URL for this form is actually the password. Look, there it is, the password there. That's the actual link. Now, you don't have to do this. You could just put the instructions here and get them to send you an email. This is something else I used to do. I used to get them send me an email and I'll put the instructions there. But I got a little bit more creative as I was going along, and they had to fill this in. So when they click on that, they add their name and then they add how they answered each question. Now, here's the part where they don't share the answers, okay, because this is really important. It's very important that they don't share the answers, because it says here you'll only be able to submit one time, so they're not going to be able to submit again because they log in with their 365 account from the school account. Okay, but if they share their answer, then what happens is it says here that's it. Now, if somebody else responds to the questions in the form and that person's responses are better than yours, you will lose. So this has happened. The person who submitted first actually lost to the second person because the first person actually didn't give a good explanation how they got one of the answers, and I can tell they guessed that one. So that prevents them from sharing their answers, and it keeps the enthusiasm there. And then I have obviously a deadline at, I don't know, say 2 weeks into it. After 2 weeks, then I will say who the winner is. Okay, here are some other ones very quickly. I've got again a World War II one, and it doesn't have to be about one topic. This one here was, a different topic. So it had a math question, grammar, life cycle, plants, metric, and of course the Buffidi challenge, which was the out of the box challenge. No one actually solved this one, but they got all of this correct. Awesome, huh? Okay, so how do we create one? So again, here's my Microsoft Teams. Now in every Teams, when you create a class, you get your class notebook as well, if you so choose to enable it. Now, from here, you're not able to create a new section, or when you can create a new section, you can't create a new section group. And like I've got here, so if I wanted to create a new Hack My Password here, then I can't do that from here because I don't have the ability to choose a section group. And this is why I say, if you're going to create them, the educator, you have to use the Windows version or the Mac version or 2016 version. You can't use the online version. So I'm going to open this in OneNote. Here we go. Okay, so this is my teacher training OneNote Class Notebook, which is from my Microsoft Teams. And here I've got my teacher only section, and I've got my student sections here as well. Okay, all dummy students except for me. I suppose I'm a bit of a dummy as well. So here we go. In the content library, this is where you're going to share you're going to actually put your Hack My Password exercise. I prepare them in teacher only. So, and then once I finished it, then I can move it here. So I'm going to click anywhere inside this teacher only section here, and I want to create a new section group. Now to do this in Windows 10, the quick way is down here where it says add section, I'm going to right click and you get new section group. You can also right click on the scroll bar, the vertical scroll bar. If you have a look here, let's see if it can go away. There you go, go away. And that actually vanishes every so often. There you go, it's vanished now. So if I move here, we see that vertical scroll bar there. I can right click on that and do a new section group. Now I've done that, and you can see it's added a new section group here. If it adds it in a place where you're not happy with, let's say it's added it inside, I don't know, somewhere else, then you can just move it around. Next step, you're going to right click and rename this section group. I'm going to call it Test Hack My Password. And you will call it whatever the theme of your Hack My Password is going to be. So now I've got this, I need to create my first section. And I don't need to right click, I'm just going to click on Add Section. There it is there. Your mission. Oops. Your mission. Here you're going to give an intro or instructions, or you might want to call it a quest, depending on your topic. And here you'll put your instructions. Then you're going to add some more pages, and these are going to be your questions. So I simply clicked on add page here and added some questions, and you can just play around with the questions until you're happy with the questions, and make sure you test them, make sure you're happy and you know exactly that what you're asking them to do is exactly that. And then the last thing I do is I create another section here. Well, actually not the last. I'm going to, oops, sorry, there we go. There we go, test that one. So I'm going to create another section, and I'm going to call this, I don't know, either the vaccine, the exit, the escape, the secret code, or top secret, whatever you want to call it, top secret. There we go. Okay. Now, this one here, you're not going to password protect yet, because you need to do all the questions and collect the answers to all the questions. So what I normally do is inside the teacher only area, I usually have another section here with the answers to the Hack My Passwords, or for now, I'm going to add another section. I'm going to write answers. The only difference is this is in the teacher only area. The students can't see this. When I move this into the content library, I'm not going to move this one. Okay, that's only for me. So as I start creating the first question, I don't know, what does the I in IP address stand for? Okay, and I can say the second and third letter in capitals. Capitals is the first key. So what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to say this is, I don't know, let's say question 1, Q1. In my answers section, I'm going to make just my answers here, answers, and I'm going to say Q1, answer is internet. The key is NT, okay, in capitals. And now I've got that first piece. And then what I also do, I press enter quite a few times. So I'm going to put here question 1, then I'm going to put question 2, and I'm going to write here as well NT. And then when I'm going to do question 2, let's say question 2, the key is, I don't know, X, Y in small letters, then I'm also going to add that there as well. And that simply starts building up my password. So I've got all my password on one string, but I've also got what the answer of each one is and what the key of each one is. Okay, so every time you're going to create another question, you're going to do that. Now, once you've finished and you've got your whole password here, you can select it, right click, copy. The last thing you need to do is to select the section you're going to password protect, right click, and you're going to go to password protect, add a password. I'm going to paste that password there and paste it there and click OK, and there you go. This now is password protected. Okay, now it's actually unlocked there, so if I want to lock that, there you go, I'm going to lock section, and there you go. So now to actually access what's inside here, you need the password. Now I've got the password here saved because I'm the teacher. I'm going to put that in there. And there you go. Now, what instructions you want to put here? As I said, I've given you some examples already. Here are some more if you want. Here are different ones which I've used. For example, for this one, here's my password. Control C. Let's have a look at that one. Okay, so here the idea was once they've opened this up, they need to send me an email, their registration group, what the secret ingredient was for the vaccine, and it says remember, do not share the answers, blah blah blah. So in this case they just had to send me an email with their answers and so on and so, and I can see who sent the email first, second or third, and then depending on the answers choose who the winner is. On this one here, World War II, this one was about World War II. Again, I've got different questions, and the answer here was a password protected Word document. But my most recent one, and I think the one I probably had the most, I enjoyed the most was this one. I actually created the form, and I created a shortened link to the form using bit.ly. You can send a comment if you want to figure out how, if you want to ask me how to do that, and basically when they clicked on this, they will submit their answer as a form. Okay, that's basically it. I hope you actually create a Hack My Password. By all means, send me some feedback if you enjoyed it, and maybe even some pictures, or if you need any help, send me a message. Have fun.